You're listening to the Clean Comedy Podcast with your host, James Creviston.
Hey, everybody, it's James. Welcome to the Clean Comedy Podcast. Today, we have a great guest. Our guest is a ballerina. Never said that on this show before. An actor and a comedian. She's performed all over, and her voice can even be heard on the TV series Transformers: War for Cybertron. So if you're a Transformers fan, I'm a Transformers fan. I love that stuff. You're going to love this. And ballerina, like I said, never said that before on this podcast. I don't think I've ever uttered those words once here. So this is the first time. So please welcome the very funny, the very talented Georgia Reed. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going? It's really great to meet you.
Great to meet you too. Okay, so the ballerina part is going to be the part that's going to hit me the most, right?
Of course. So let's get into it, man. I mean, I totally stalked you. We've got some stuff in common. I love you've lived all over. I've lived all over. I started in Georgia, then we moved to Missouri, then I worked in the Midwest as a ballerina, danced with companies there. And then I moved to New York. And then I moved out to LA. So I share your passion for, speaking to different groups of people. I'm listening to your last podcast, and it is true. Depending on where you're at, different jokes are going to work. And that doesn't necessarily mean the joke's not good. It just means you got to know your audience. I love that.
Yeah. It's a hard thing as a comedian to discern, because you go, well, this joke kills here. So it's killed here and here and here and here. So it's killed 90 places, right? And you're like, well, this is going to be great. The same thing. And then 91, you're like, oh, well, that didn't work how I wanted it to work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Okay. Yeah, no, go ahead, please.
I would say you said you lived in Georgia. Is that where your name came from? Is that why they did that?
Yeah. Well, no, my parents were going to name me Georgia. It's a family name. My great grandmother, Georgia Reed. But then they worried that, well, she's in Georgia, the kids will make fun of her. So instead, they named me Jennifer and nicknamed me Jiffy, and everyone called me Jiffy. No one picked on me about that, ever. Am I creamy or crunchy?
Yeah.
10 minutes, Jiffy Lube. I mean, comedy wrote itself.
There you go.
I was destined.
Growing up in the South, you usually get like a nickname or some kind of like other name that people know. Like I didn't go by James until I was in my 20s. All before that, all my childhood, I was JD. Right. And
you're JD. Okay.
I was JD. And then, but the funniest part about that is when I would introduce myself, people go, well, how do you spell that? I'm like, it's 2 letters. I don't know. I don't know what you want me to do with that. It's 2 letters. If we can't do 2 letters.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's great. That's so Texas though. JD. I love it.
Yeah, it is. So, okay. Back to what you're talking about, traveling in the world and stuff. That started with ballet. So ballet was your entry into world travel type stuff.
Well, it was. It's interesting. So, when you look back, the beauty of getting older, and you start revisiting, and you're thinking, so why did I do what I did? And you hear about these kids, like my parents, they wanted me to be a doctor. They wanted me to be a lawyer. My parents wanted me to be a ballerina. I wanted to be an actor and a singer. And I've got journals. I was making up all kinds of inappropriate songs, toilet humor, all kinds of things. But my parents were uber religious, and their plan was, you're going to be a ballerina. So and I liked pleasing them, so I did it to the best of my ability. But I always felt like I never quite fit in. It was really interesting. I wanted to cut up in class. I wanted to try different things. And it wasn't until I moved to New York City that I really started to rebel. And the good news is that stand-up has been a great way to sort of release all of that stuff that I did and all the mistakes that I made. It's like stand-up gave me permission to actually punch down on myself, but in a weird way, it's helped release a lot of that, which I think is fantastic. I think every dancer, especially ballerinas, should definitely do stand-up to, get the tension out.
Stage therapy. It's so funny that you say that, because both of my daughters have done dance. My youngest one is still in dance, and she wants to, but now because my oldest one is a cheerleader, my youngest one is going to do cheerleading too. So they're both going to do that stuff. But they both dance. They ballet, hip hop. Actually, my youngest one is great at hip hop and stuff. But
nice.
They thought about being professional dancers, but as we went over what the career is and how much you actually make, it's not really worth it to invest all this time and years and resources to beat your body up for not very much pay.
Now, if you want to pay for your daughter's career for the rest of their lives, you go right ahead. But that's what's going to happen. I mean, my parents helped me out a lot, and I'm actually working on a new bit where I'm saying, look, parents, skip the ballet, just enroll your kids in stripper school, in pole dance classes. All right. They'll make a lot more money. A ballet bar is really just a pole on its side. I mean, so you're part way there. They're going to learn. You never hear of a ballet, you never hear of a girl putting themselves through law school doing ballet on the side. So these are the kinds of things you have to think about.
That's funny.
Well, but I will tell you this, when so I finally quit, and then I tried it again in my 30s. I had like a midlife crisis, and then I quit again. And all this time I had my YouTube channel, which is Ballerina Badass, which even that, I mean, dance teachers and students and moms like, oh, you shouldn't call it that. It's inappropriate. And I'm like, exactly. It's inappropriate. Ballet especially is dorky. It's silly. It's just silly when you think about it. Grown people running around in tights and tutus showing their bits. I mean, come on. But I also wanted to talk more about, what's life like outside of it? What's life like after it? What's all the stuff around it? And now that I'm doing stand-up, I've gotten the channel going again, and there is such a need and desire for people who just want someone to talk straight to them. And that does not happen in the ballet world. Everything, it's almost like you're in church, and everything is very proper and appropriate, and then the stabbing behind the back kind of thing. Not all churches, sorry, but some. So it's also a very Southern thing. But anyways, that's been a lot of fun bringing that into it. So I'm hoping to marry the two, and then hopefully I can help more dancers who are either thinking of getting out of it or just looking at a life beyond professional dance, that kind of thing. You know?
And I think the biggest thing is that we learned as like my youngest daughter did a bunch of competitions is that like, the money that you invest in is not what the return that you're going to get on it and stuff. So that's always been kind of weird. But
you're a money-making comedy guy. I love that about your stuff. You're like, hey guys, let's monetize this and tweet. I love that about your blog and all of that. It's really encouraging.
Well, the problem is that too many comedians are broke and they don't have.
What is that? What is that?
Well, I think the biggest reason is because clubs go, do you want to get on stage or not? We're not going to pay you, but if you want to get on stage and tell jokes, then but we're not going to pay you. And then also you need to bring people, and also those people need to buy drinks or food or whatever. So you're kind of limited in like, oh, if I want to be a comedian and do clubs and go the traditional route, I have to suck it up and not get paid. Which is why I always say to comedians, make your own room, produce your own shows, do your own thing. You become in charge, and you could pay yourself, but two, pay other comedians, because we work hard. If you're a comedian and you're not paying other comedians, you're doing every other comedian a disservice, because you know how hard it is to work on jokes, to get a set built, to do all that stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I love that. I think I'm all ready. So you started in 2016, right?
Yeah, around 2016, yeah.
So I was never going to do stand-up, by the way. My manager basically one day just called me up and said, I bought you a class, you're doing it. That's what she did.
Wow.
In 2020. It was very sweet. She's amazing. I'm like, oh my God. So I went and I did it, and I did my first show at the Ice House. And it was a packed room. It was a great audience. It was just like the ideal first time to really make you pow. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm addicted. And then COVID hit.
Yep.
And I'm a newbie. So everyone's going, let's do Zoom. And I'm like, no, I come from a theater background. I did theater in New York. I've been on stage. So I crave that stage thing. And again, not having the experience, I wasn't ready to jump on Zoom calls with people. So I laid off for 2 years. Wow. And then April of last year is when I jumped back in. So I am new. And I've learned, I thought it was so fascinating. You were talking about yesterday, I guess, the clean comedians are a lot more supportive of one another sometimes than the club comedians. And you're right. I got some great advice from a comedian once, and he said, look, people are going to come up to you and ask you how long you've been doing it. It's kind of like them asking, how old are you?
Right.
And it's almost like you're supposed to lie and be like, oh, I've been doing it a while. You don't say, oh, I'm brand new, because then they're really going to just hate you if you're positive and you're killing it. And I am. I'm not saying I'm like rad, but I know I'm doing really well for where I'm at because I've been performing since I was 5. That's why. It's not, you know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
but I want that to change. I think, like you're saying, I'm looking into, okay, how can I produce my own shows? How can I host? I'm reading every book I can find and meeting with just to even get on this podcast with you and talk about this stuff. I could talk about it all day and all night. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that comedians need to change their mindset. I follow the Jackie Cation and Lori Kilmartin podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with those two,
Yep.
but
I
they
am.
talk about being on the road and the grind. And I'm hearing them and I'm like, these are working comedians, real working comedians. And you just are like, oh, this is it. It's not fame and glory and all that pipe dream stuff. Do you know what I
It's
mean?
a lot of stuff of being on your own, being in a hotel room far away from everybody, and then for whatever amount of time you're on stage, that's it, and then you're back to your hotel.
Yep.
For me, it's writing jokes and watching Seinfeld, but
Yes.
that's me. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
and I'll do It's Always Sunny also. I love
Yeah,
Seinfeld,
I
and then
do.
it's really evil cousin, the
Yeah, it's
unloved.
all. I love It's Always Sunny. So I'm not gonna hate on that show at all. But
Brilliant, brilliant show.
I can always find you can almost always find Seinfeld on TV somewhere when
Yes,
you're out and about. For some reason, it's on TV, and so it's just so soothing. It also reminds me, like, okay, Jerry. The funny part about Seinfeld is it only ever shows Jerry on stage, like usually the beginning of a show. It
yes,
never it doesn't do a lot of episodes where he's on the club at the club or even a comedian's life. It shows his everyday routine, which is exactly what all of us experience, except for that drive to the club, time on the stage, and then drive back home, right? Or wherever we're
yes,
performing. So I
yes.
think the problem that I realized early on in my career as I was doing this is coming from a military background, we are all taught to work together. So you work
Yes,
together, you are a team. When I got
yes,
to I played sports, right? I played football growing up and baseball growing up and all those things, and you're taught work together. But when you go to comedy, you're not working together. It's you on your own. And so then I saw it was this competitive like nature where people were like that question, like, how long you been doing it? Where are you from? Like they're like, it's like interviewing you to see whether like I want you to be part of my group or I want to exclude you somehow,
it's like
right?
middle school cliques, man. And
Yes,
people said
yes.
it's very clicky. I was like, okay. And here's the thing: I didn't do well in middle school with cliques. I
Same.
didn't do well in high school. And part of why I love stand up is that, well, I'm lucky. I have a partner in crime. I've been married 10 years and
Awesome.
it's like day 1 with us. And so I get to come home to that. And someone told me one time, they're like, look, you have to understand a lot of these comedians are going home to studio apartments or not even that by themselves and trying to just make it ends meet. So I I'm okay with not being in a clique for now.
Yeah.
If it takes time, I'd rather, great, I can work on my own jokes. And again, if you are an introvert control freak like me, I love it. I think more actors should do it too because I can go on stage anytime I want. I'm not waiting for I'm waiting for an audition. Oh, I'm waiting to be booked. Oh, I'm waiting in the set. You write your own material, you go, you
Yep.
try it out. There's good days, there's bad days. You always meet new people. It's public speaking 101. I'm like, good Lord. And I'm really interested in getting more into the clean side. This is
Yeah.
specifically why I'm very excited to be with you today because I grew up watching Victor Borga. We listened to the Bill Cosby, chocolate cake for breakfast record.
Yep. I do that.
Love
I
that
do that bit at
record.
my house all the time. Even though like I know Cosby's controversial,
We
guys. I
all
get
well,
it.
look, we all don't like we all agree what he did is bleh, and we're not going to even we're talking about the art
Yep.
right
The
here. We're
the
just going to
bits,
focus
the
on that.
jokes. Yep.
His stuff was it was something my family could all connect on,
Yeah.
right? All of us would laugh our heads off at that stuff. And there was not a single swear word. I swear like a sailor. I do. It was my one big like rebellion against my religious family, like, and I could like whisper it to my friends, haha, and
Yeah.
so, but I'm watching Victor Borga, I'm watching the Smothers Brothers, and I'm like, if I really want my jokes to get better, they should be good without a single swear. Cause I feel like
Yeah.
swearing is like, I mean, it's like, buttholes and genitalia. It's such a cheat.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you need to, if you need a lifeline, you throw in
Right.
one of those dirty jokes or a swear, but it should be able to stand on its own. And so I did my first clean set. Oh my God. James, it was solid. I was confident. It was solid. I was doing Star Wars nerd material, and it
Nice.
wasn't entirely a Star Wars nerd crowd. A few of them, so I had people to work with, But I could remember thinking I wasn't entirely present because I was making sure I didn't drop a swear. So it was
Right.
it was very exciting. But I got through. I was like, yes. So now I'm sort of addicted to that. I want to keep going with it. And I
Yeah.
think that the jokes will get better. I mean, what do you think?
No, they definitely do. I was always told you can dirty up clean, but you can't clean up dirty. So
Yes.
that's a big thing of like, if you can write all your jokes clean, if you can make all your jokes clean, then if you need to get dirty, because I know like some of my friends are clean comedians and they have to go on cruise ships, and so cruise ships want you to do like a dirty set.
Yes.
So they have all their clean jokes. They can just throw a word in there to get, call it dirty, right? So they
Yes.
can get away with it and then move on. Because I've heard clean comedians go, I don't want to do that. I'm like, yeah, you have all clean material. So, but if you throw in one word there, then you're done. You've met the requirements. You can go back to doing your thing, and
And
now you
if
don't
your
have to worry
stuff's
about it.
good, the cruise line isn't going to care,
Yeah, yeah,
My God. I love cruises. My husband and I just went on a cruise in Miami and we were watching the guy. It was raining that day and everyone was on. It was a day at sea. So
yeah,
everyone was in the comedy room. We are actually standing outside watching the guy on the TV screen. And I'm like, this man is a champion. I mean, he was just having fun and the audience was tired and mad and just half of them you could see people just like scratching themselves and not and everything's bright and he was just rocking it. I'm like that that takes talent, man.
yeah.
Serious talent.
Well, you have to have 2 hours, at least, usually between an hour and a half to 2 hours of material that you can go back and forth on for a cruise. So there's a lot of people that can't do that yet, especially in people, comedians from LA or from New York, where they're getting 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes of stage time. And if you have no credits, like, you're not going to get a lot of stage time. But there's a lot of comedians that tour the Midwest that also do cruises, because in the Midwest they're getting more stage time. So
Exactly, that's the goal.
do you know who the comedian was that was on the cruise? Do you know their name?
Oh, I don't off the top of my head. No,
Okay.
I
No,
forget names whenever I'm
just
on the spot
just curious.
anyway. So, but
Right.
yeah, but if I think of it, I'll email you
Yeah,
if
no worries.
I find it. Yeah.
So where are your favorite places that you get to perform stand up? Like, what, you're in LA, so where do you
Yeah.
get to perform that you like? What's the places that you like to go to a lot?
Well, I am enjoying Flappers mainly because they're really giving me a lot of opportunities, and I appreciate that because I am a look. I've got acting credits, and but so what? This is still a beginning thing for me, and I've been really having a lot of fun working over there. I've met a lot of nice comedians there. I've seen the other cliques too, but whatever.
Yeah.
I love Crow Comedy. I love what they're doing over there because over there, right? I feel like Flappers is more like my mainstream, more middle America audience, right? For LA. But
Right. Yeah.
Crow Comedy, we're talking, I mean, that's where we're getting LGBTQIA, BYOB, which is bring your own baby. So parents can bring their babies in and they'll sit there with while people are doing comedy and it's baby friendly comedy.
Wow.
Like some of them,
What's baby friendly comedy? What is that?
I think it's just comedians who are there who support people having babies in public. Do you know what I mean? Like it just
Yeah.
that's just such a neat idea. They're doing weird song nights. They're coming up with all kinds of variety things, and it's not like they're the only show in town doing it. But
Right.
it's very woman forward, which I really like. It's very, again, the gay community, the non, all of that. I love that everyone is welcome there, and there's
An
just
inclusive place. I like that.
well, what I noticed coming in, and again, look, I'm just starting out, so I know I'm doing a lot of open mics, and at those you see the same people doing the same routine over and over, which, if you've read, did you read Bob Odenkirk's latest book, Comedy, Comedy, Comedy?
No, I need I it's on my list of things to read.
I know we all have like people say, do
Yeah.
you know this comedian? You're like, I know 100 other ones, but I don't know that one.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yep.
Okay, I'll add it to the list. Well, Bob Odenkirk talked about when he did stand up, the reason he didn't stick with it is because you have to do the same set over and over again and make it fresh every night, which to me, it's like that's like a play. But I'm
Right.
seeing a lot of these comedians doing the same 5 minutes and they're not having fun with it. And it's mostly dudes doing genitalia jokes and why women suck. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm down for a good genital joke, See, I'm trying to keep it mild. That's not even clean either. But a good genital joke, or you're talking about the sexes, but I want it to be new. It's that whole thing. Give us the same but different.
Right.
So that's what kind of I like going over to Crow is I feel like they're really trying to change that model. I've just dipped my toes into the Comedy Store. That place is a little intimidating. I feel like you have to be part of the cool crowd to be there. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I've met some of the bouncers who are also comedians, and they're fantastic. Jess Wellington, she's a badass. And Chris Riggins, he's really cool. And he's open for Chappelle and all that. But you love that. It's just you're always like 2 degrees separated from some really amazing people, and you never know on any given night. I was doing a show over in Burbank. There's a really great show at a vintage store called Yes Baby Vintage in Burbank. Corey, now I can't think of it. Corey Jacobs runs it with his partner in crime, and he let me come on as as a one-off on his show, and Steph Tolev was there that night, and I just watched her on Netflix. I'm like, holy cow, that was a big honor.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. I mean, but that's true about first-year comedians, especially male comedians. Is it's all like genital jokes, Uber jokes, Tinder jokes, all those kind of things like that. Where that like they haven't learned yet that the humor level that you need to get to isn't high school, middle school humor level, right? You can't do potty jokes and body jokes as those things yet. Like that, but that's what you're going to start with. That's why you'll see a lot.
You got to get it out.
You're gonna get it out of there, and I always tell my wife we're all 15-year-old boys still for forever. We just are like men are just 15-year-old boys forever.
I get it, but yes, I think we're all 15-year-old.
Men are for sure. We're all 15-year-old boys for forever, and like we find like if you get enough men together in a room, like the IQ like just keeps dropping and dropping. The more men you add to a room, the IQ level just goes down.
Women do too. We just do it in secret, and make sure no one's recording.
I always feel like whenever I see a lot of women gather together, I'm like, something is about to change in the world. The world is about to have like a moment of change. I don't know what that moment's gonna be, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right
Well, I love
and there's one guy that's gonna be screwed by it. Like just so there's one guy that all those women are going to like team up, and his life is gonna change.
I got news for you, James. A lot of them are. I don't know if you're on TikTok these days. Oh my God, I avoided. So when the pandemic hit, I shut all of my social media down. Like not even just you'll come back later. I deleted, burned. Everything. And I was like, I'm done. I'm going to get a clamshell phone. I'm a child of the 80s. I don't need this. There was life before. Then the pandemic ended and I started back into stand-up, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just do the Instagram.
Yeah.
Well, but then Twitter's good there's a lot of good joke writing. That's a great way to really test your joke writing capability. I should probably do that. What's this? TikTok's horrible. Wait a minute. Someone just sent me this really awesome TikTok. God dang it. Okay, I'm on the TikTok. And now I love it. I love TikTok. Absolutely adore it.
My only beef with TikTok is that I feel like it has created misunderstanding of what stand-up is, because a lot of people post now heckler videos or crowd work videos. And so I've noticed a lot lately of people shouting stuff out at shows. Where that wasn't happening as much before, but I believe this whole posting these crowd work or heckler interaction videos, which have been big for people like Steve Hofstetter and stuff like that.
Love Steve Hofstetter.
That other comedians are doing that, and now it's growing into. I hear a lot of my friends will go, man, shows are weird now. Like people just shout stuff out sometimes, and so I'm being very aware when I'm writing jokes, and I know a lot of my friends are too. We're changing things where whenever we're saying a joke, we don't want it to sound like a question that you're going to answer. So that doesn't happen, right? There's not a reason, but because some people are like, have you ever done, and then boom, now somebody's going to yell out something, right?
Yep.
So you have to be very careful about how you word things. And so it's made me go back and work on bits. Unless I want to actually engage the audience, I'm being very careful about how I'm opening bits or how I'm starting things. Because we all used to be able to be like, man, how whenever we're growing up, blah, 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 and you do a thing, the people go, yeah, when I was growing up, and you're like, whoa, this is not a conversation. But
Right.
now, because they think it is, it's more
shifting.
difficult. Yeah. And so I don't know
Yeah.
how long that's going to last, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping that I think there needs to be something needs to happen in clubs where people go, hey, unless a comedian specifically asks you a question, don't shout stuff out, or whatever. I
Yeah.
don't know if that needs to be something we say again, because we've already addressed recording, photos, videos, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But we haven't addressed this level yet, because it's starting to come in. And the more comedians I talk to, the more go, yeah, I had someone yell at my show. Oh yeah, I was at a show and someone yelled out at the headliner, or somebody yelled. I was like,
Hey,
man.
I was on a mic and one of my fellow comedians, I asked a question and they spit out my punchline. I was like, damn it. But I'll say this, what I'm doing to sort of deal with it for myself is I like to pretend I'm at a really great Southern Baptist African American church revival. Because
Right.
I love that. I wish my church had been like that growing up. You get to, that's right. Yep, here. I don't, you just get to speak up, speak your mind. I'm like, yeah. So I try to lean into it, because you're
Yeah.
right. I think people are absolutely responding a lot more. But I don't come from the before 4 times.
Yeah.
And see, I do get it from the place of ballet. You said your daughter does competitions.
Yeah.
It makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up on end, because competitions to me are like the death of ballet, because ballet used to be an art form, storytelling, all of this, and it's morphed into now, it's not good enough your leg's this high. Your leg needs to be this
Yeah.
high, and you need to do 10 turns. And that's really fun to watch if you're into watching 12-year-olds in
Right.
unity.
Oh no, it's the most uncomfortable thing. I've only gone to one competition, and it was the most uncomfortable day of my entire life.
Temporary, yeah. And it's,
Yeah.
and then what none of them realize is that they're going to pay for that physically just around the age of 30. They're going to start feeling it, and then by the time they're 40, they're going to be in a walker. So, but here's the thing, I'm from the before 4 time, so I know how I sound to them. They're like, that train has sailed.
Yeah.
War train doesn't sail, the ship has sailed.
That train has moved down the track. There you go.
Good metaphors. So I feel for you, because I hear that too. I mean, clubs are booking TikTok stars.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, when I hear that, for me, what I'm choosing to do when I've had enough to eat for breakfast and I'm in my right positive thinking is, right on, not my problem. Am I booking? I'm my own competition. And I think it's interesting you're saying people are only writing 5-minute sets. My big challenge has been, my husband finally said, you need to stick with one set and do it a while, because I was writing so much. Louis C.K. was like, the first year I just wrote and wrote and wrote. So I wrote, like, I have a stepmother set, I have my dad dying set, I have my Star Wars set, I have, like 5 or 6 different sets that I've mushed around and tried different things. And I'm already working on a new one for tonight for an open mic, because I feel like if you want to get your 30 minutes to a 1 hour, if you've listened to Maria Bamford's Audible book, which is available for free on Audible, called You Are a 1 Hour Special, it's it's fantastic. It's just, you gotta write. I know you get it.
Yeah. What's your writing process like? Like, what do you do? Do you start with like an idea, or like me, my ideas come from like just life. As I'm doing things, I'll think of something funny, and then I'll record it on my phone, or I'll write it in my notes app, and then I'll come back to it later on. Or I've woken up in the middle of the night and written
Yes.
stuff down, or whatever. Or when I'm driving,
Yes.
maybe I listen to a song, or even, I don't know if you do this. Sometimes I'll be listening to stand up or listening to a podcast, and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. And then I like stop that and start recording like my own idea or version of that type thing.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
yes. Pandora have you heard on Pandora radio? I was listening to the stand up, whatever channel, and they were doing ads. And one of the ads went, are you into raunchy humor? Well, we've got the channel for you. And they said this, I kid you not, James. They said something like, this is the channel for you to get off on, or something like that. And the whole thing with Louis C.K. had just happened. And I'm going, good God almighty, who's going to get off to comedy on Pandora while they're in traffic? That's not, That's not right.
That's not how it
Like on
works.
so
No.
many levels, it's not right. But I feel you. I wanted to stop and jerk store. I always
Yeah.
think of George Costanza, jerk store.
Yeah.
Yeah, my process is like yours, and even for this, I write it everywhere. Because as Tom Waits says, you don't want to lose the muse. It will go somewhere else if you don't
Yep.
grab that sucker. So I have my daily journal. I try to do my 10 jokes a day, from Scott Dicker's How to Write Funny, and Steve North recommends it, all of those, people, Judy Carter. So you try to write 10 jokes a day, and 9.5 of them just suck. But they'll get better. And then I have a running whiteboard of just ideas, topics that I want to cover. I really want to cover, am I a Karen? Probably. I'm more of a Jenny. Really, I don't mean to be racist. I'm unaware of my privilege, like that. Right. Words people who say you can't say this word anymore. You can't say the R word. And I love what Mark Maron said. Yeah, you can. You can say any word you want. There's just consequences. Mm-hmm. So just accept them and do it. I was really angry he said that on his special. I actually messaged him on Instagram like, hey, man, that was my idea. But fine, you did it. Whatever. And then I will diatribe it. And then I go through and I cut. And then I go through and I cut. And then I go through and I cut.
Yeah.
And then I go on stage and forget and start to diatribe when I get nervous. And then I try to record everything and watch it back and, oh God, and then cut again. You know how it goes. So
I do. That's very similar. I write all I'll either, like I said, record it out. I use an app called otter.ai.
I know Otter, yeah.
So I can record the audio and then it'll transcribe it all for me. And then I can take it and paste it in Word and just go through and cut it like, oh, I didn't need to say that, or there's a better way to say that, or there's a funnier way to say that, whatever it is, and then do it. And then I can go back and work on it again. The other thing that I do is I may have an idea for something like, oh, I'll write down like an idea, like, oh, that's a funny idea. And then realize that can't be a bit. So I can turn it into a funny story, or I can turn it into a monologue joke, or a headline for like the Onion or the Babylon Bee or whatever it is. And try to figure. So a lot of times I'll have all that stuff. I have like a whole, on my Google Drive, I have a whole thing that's just humor. And I just have everything separated out, jokes and short stories or ideas for things. And so that's what I do is I don't ever want, I think someone told me when I started, like, don't ever throw away anything.
Yes. Keep everything. Yes.
Yeah, you never know whether it's going to come in handy. And I learned early on that some of the jokes I wrote would not work for me. But then I would hear somebody do a joke and go, oh, I have a joke that I think would be great for you. I'll give this to you, or I'll send this to you, or whatever. And then it turned into like selling jokes to people and then writing jokes to people. But I always had enough material where I could just like, oh, I could sell this and do it. But
that's what I want to do. I'm sorry. Keep going, please. But Steve, sorry.
Steve North was my first comedy coach. Like he was the
person
that taught me comedy.
Yes.
So he was my first. And then as I transitioned out of that, Gene Perrette, who passed away earlier, he used to write for Bob Hope. He was a mentor to me for writing and stuff. You live right here, where I live. And then just after that, Scott Dickers is a friend of mine who's helped me write stuff. And there's like so many people that like
Scott Dickers.
He's awesome, has helped me along the way. And so I just took all that knowledge and just tried to like, okay, if I keep doing these things, I will eventually be successful. And Bill Burr, like I read a thing from Bill Burr the other day saying like, he's like, it took me a long time, like, way longer than it probably should have, but it took me a long time. And I'm like, cause I think we as comedians tend to go, I want to be on Netflix. I want to be this thing. I want to do that thing. And we're like at year 1 or year 5 or year 7 going, I want to do these things. And it's like, no. Pump your brakes. Just wait. Yeah.
Have you been watching? Cause I'll watch some sets of up and comers. And it's not as good as it could be. I see where they're going. And again, they probably say, let's see you get up here and do it. And it's like, that's my whole point. I'm not going to do Netflix right now.
Yeah.
That I feel, and that same comedian who gave me the advice about just understanding the cliquishness, he said the same thing. He got really big, really fast, like up with some of those major headliners, and they came for him,
Yeah.
And he lost his nerve. He just wasn't ready for it. So I think who was it? Somebody said, just enjoy. I follow the Flappers newsletter. I love it.
Oh yeah,
Moonjean,
Paul.
love his
That's
stuff. And
my
he's
buddy.
like,
I love Paul.
okay, so well, I'm going to do some of their workshops. I love it. They've got that Flappers University pass, the FU
Yep.
pass. I love that.
Yep.
You get your sets for half off,
Yeah.
and they're good, nicely recorded sets in a legitimate club,
Yeah.
for God's sake. You can even do
Yeah.
it with their open mics. And
Yeah.
you get 2 workshops for free, and then like all these it's amazing. So he was saying, look, your first couple of years, take your time. And I don't go to every mic every night. I've turned jobs down. Somebody invited me out for a paying gig out in Palm Springs. I wanted to go so bad. I'm like, wait a minute. I got to drive out there. That's gas. I got to do this. Am I going to spend the night? And, who do I know out there? I know a couple people, but I'm still at that point where I'm careful about which shows I invite my people to,
Right.
so that they don't get worn out. Because I follow some people on Instagram. I'm not going to lie. I mute them because they're doing 10 shows this week and I don't care. It's too much. It's like, hit me with your really choice stuff if you can. Let us know. Oh, it's cool. But if you want me to come, like, does that make sense? It's like marketing and packaging and
Yeah. It can feel overwhelming. Like you're getting too much all the time. I've done shows in Palm Springs. Actually, the last show I did in Palm Springs, it was the one day of the year that it rains in Palm Springs, and I didn't know this.
No,
nobody comes out in the rain in Palm Springs.
No, man.
So we had a giant casino showroom, and we had like 30 people in like a 200 plus room showroom, which normally sells out, but because it was raining, no one would come. And half of the crowd that was there were people that I knew that came out and
Bless your
stuff. So
heart.
it was like, that was great. But I was like, oh, like I remember like looking out and seeing like we're 5 minutes before showtime and just the like front row is full. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no. And then I talked to somebody and they're like, yeah, no, people in Palm Springs don't, if it's raining, people won't come
They
out.
don't come
I was
out.
like, what has happened? And then I had to drive back with the headliner back to LA that night in the rain. And I remember just being like, oh, this is the worst.
Yeah.
And the booker was cool. Everyone was cool. It was just that we got hit with that one thing and it was just like, oh man.
What a
Because in LA, it
disappointment.
doesn't matter. People come out and do whatever,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Now, what do you think about? Oh, I know we got to answer.
No,
I just wanted. What do you think about mixing the Zoom with the live? I'm surprised. Maybe it's because they're trying to control the media, but I don't know what clubs have to deal with, but I'm surprised they don't do more like, and we're live streaming it. If you want to join, kind of like a boxing match, you pay a fee to watch your person from the comfort of your home. I don't know.
Well, a lot of that has to do, I think, it depends on what comedian is doing it. If it's like, 10 random comedians at Flappers or whatever, people might not watch that, right? But if Bill Burr's there, but maybe he's working on new stuff and he doesn't want it out there yet, so that's not gonna happen. So that's like you're trying to control how it works. The other thing is, how do you deal with the payment on that, right? If you're collecting $100 off of that, and the comedian can't record or stream his own stuff either. It's like, wait, that's weird. You're streaming my material and making money off it. Like, I get you're giving me stage time, but now you're
right.
You're getting another revenue stream, which I like the idea. I think if there was a way to keep it where you could lock it so people can't record that or pull it off of there and share it, then I think it would be okay. And you also pay the comedians for the live streams. Maybe they someone signs up to the live stream and they pick what comedian they're there to see, and the comedian gets a portion of that based on it.
Yeah.
That might be a way to do it. I think it is a way to do it, but I think also comedy clubs make their money off of food and beverage. That's their number one income stream. Whenever people go, I want to own a comedy club, I go, okay, make sure your food and beverage is good. You can't just sell expensive drinks just to sell expensive drink. You can't sell subpar food and charge $20 for it because you're trapped in the club. That's not how it works. People are gonna go, I don't want to go there because I don't want to pay $40 in food for something I get at McDonald's for $3.50 or $5 or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
so
you're right.
You have to be very aware of that. Like, Flappers has great food.
Yes, they do.
They really do. They have
Solid.
fantastic food. But I've been to other clubs where the food is like, I would buy this. The Comedy Chateau. I went to a show to go support my friend Adam Yenser and a couple other comedians that I knew. The only thing I did not like about their process is you have to pay for everything up front.
Yep.
So when you get there, you have to buy, like, order your drinks, order your stuff, and they bring it all at once. It's like, I don't want my 2 drinks sitting on the table and one of them just
Sweating.
becoming water.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm
Yes.
like, I don't want to do that. But
Yeah.
I understand their logic of not wanting to interrupt the show with bringing food and drinks, but I don't know. So that was a reason where I was like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe I won't watch.
Comedy Chateau is a special place in all of our hearts as comedians.
Yeah.
Hey, it is what it is, you know.
It is what it is. I mean, it's great that there's another venue there. I appreciate that they're doing stuff. I think if they're a little tweaking, it'll be a better place.
It'd be a really badass place. Yeah. Well, now, what are your preferred places that you're liking these days to perform at?
I don't do a lot of clubs anymore. I do a lot of smaller rooms, indie rooms. I do a lot of stuff on the road or outside. So
that's great.
I do go to Flappers. Like I said, Paul is a good friend of mine. I started there. I've had a good relationship there. That's where I met a lot of my friends. That's where I first got to meet Preacher Lawson and hang out with him, and
nice.
That was when he was starting out here.
Nice.
So I have good memories of the place. I've done Haha. I've done the Improvs. I've done the Comedy Store. I haven't done Laugh Factory, which is one I do want to do, but I do a lot of JR's Comedy Club, which is it's a really good. It's owned by Randy Lubis. He's been doing it for 25 years. There's one in Simi at the Junkyard, and there's one in Valencia at no, it's not Marie Callender's. It's Mimi's Cafe. Sorry.
Oh, Mimi's, yeah, of course, yeah.
So I like that. It's a little more intimate. It's a little more fun. You kind of know the audience that you're getting there. In Simi, it's a little more of a rowdy audience. They want kind of a little more of a blue stuff. If you want to go blue there, that's the place to do it. At the Mimi's, it's a little more conservative crowd where they kind of want to like a little toned down, so they don't want in your face stuff.
That's great.
So I like that, and it's great. I mean, again, Randy's amazing. Paul runs the Valencia room. Randy, I think, Joel runs the Simi room. So there are great comedians that run it and know what they're doing, and they're strong in it. I like that. I love indie rooms. I also have done the Fourth Wall Cafe, which I love.
Do you like it? Yeah, I've got a buddy who's doing a show at he's doing a short bus. Pancho Malorp and his wife. They're doing a duo. So Pancho is a little person and his wife is a regular size, and they've now teamed up as comedy team. They're freaking hilarious. And he's doing a show that he just started hosting called Short Bus Comedy. I'm hoping to get on that one. They're really great. If you run into Pancho, he's a great guy. Yeah, both of them really cool people.
So I just try to do stuff all over the place, and then I want to work more corporate and church stuff and like private gigs. That's the
money, and you got to be clean. That is the money too. Yeah. Sorry. And of course, for what you want to do personally with the kind of people you want to reach out. I saw your gig at the Moore Park Church, and you're talking about spanking. I loved it. It was great. I'm like, yep. I had soap in the mouth growing up. My dad served in Vietnam. You're like, oh, no army. I'm like, what do you mean no army? My dad was army.
Both of my grandpas were in the army, but when I was growing up, like they were like, you can't join. And I grew up outside Fort Hood. Like I lived outside the largest army base in America. Yeah. But I was always told no, you can't. Like I signed up at 17. Like you have to have your parents sign up there. So they're like, we're not gonna do that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Also, I'm not a big camper, by the way. I don't want to live out I don't want to live in a tent. Like that doesn't sound fun to me at all.
Gotcha.
The Navy, it's like you get a bed in a garbage can and sail around in the ocean. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
fine. I know. My brother Chris did it. Yep.
So, and I'm working on a bit about that because I try to describe to people how going on a deployment is in the military. We used to say like, just imagine getting in a garbage can and like staying in it for 6 months away from all your friends and family, and then you come back one day. You just show up and like, hey, I'm back, guys. But I'm like, now we've all experienced what being on a deployment is. We've all been in the pandemic. We've all been locked away from our friends and family for months at a time, and then just showed up one day like, hey guys, we're back. You know, like that's exactly you've all
like
now been. You've all now been on a naval deployment where thanks to the pandemic.
Have you? What was it? I visited because my stepson was a Boy Scout, and I was a assistant scout leader for several years. And we went down into the belly of one of those ships. That's man, that's some claustrophobia down in the engine room. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. No,
uh-uh.
I was not a DC man. I didn't do any of this like
I want to be
engine room stuff. I was
Quagmire
an engineer.
on
No.
the top doing the YMCA. That's it.
Yeah. No, I got to just deal with guns and missiles and stuff and blow stuff up, and that was good enough for me. So
That's awesome, dude. Well, thank you for your service.
no, yeah, no problem. It's always been a pleasure. I was glad that I could. Like I knew from being a little kid, I would eventually serve at some point. I just didn't know like in what capacity and where. So
See, and I wanted to, but my dad is like, women can't do it. They're all going to get raped. And he is right to an extent, but it doesn't help move things forward. So again,
I agree. I agree. I would never encourage. No, and this is
not the
to
way
be. I'm
things.
not like
No, not the
sexist
way
or
things
whatever.
are right now. No, I
Right?
wouldn't
Yeah.
either. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. No.
They have no
It's
support.
not. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like it really is still a boys' club, and it's very
Yes.
like aggressive, and it's not a place
Yeah.
for the safety of women and for the kindness of women for what women are in society. Like, listen,
Yeah.
I love women. I live in a house with women. That's my whole life is women.
Here comes. Okay, but
The military is not a place for them. Maybe like medical services or something like that.
This
But
will
being
be
deployed is not.
this will be a
No offense.
conversation for another day, James.
Yeah, of course. But look, that's the thing is I experienced it. So I look as a man, it's difficult enough. As a woman, now you're adding another layer to that. It's very, very harmful. I had a friend who's like, my daughter wants to go in the Air Force, and I was like, do not let her. Do not.
Yeah.
Just say no. Send her Peace Corps. Send her whatever. Don't do that. Like I just know because
No, you've been there. I mean, that's the thing. You've been there,
it's
boots on the
big
ground.
dumb idiots like me. You know what I'm saying? Like at 18, think of all the 18-year-old men you've ever met in your entire life. Now put them all in a room together and give them hyper masculine aggressive training, and then throw a woman in the mix and see what happens.
Well, see, this is what's so wrong. This is why I'm just not the right person to talk to, because I was raised by my dad and had two big brothers who, it's funny, my husband, he's the sweetheart. He's got the big heart. If we're at a party, he'll hang with all the moms.
Yeah.
And I hang with all the dads.
That's funny.
And so, but the one thing that comes down to is that until we change the way we raise, I mean, if you don't raise your girls to know how to defend themselves and bulk up, and that means genetic changing. I mean, it's a whole thing. It's going to take years to change, but change it will, I think.
Right.
And of course, what everyone keeps saying is, well, the more we can train. I think that we're getting into a whole nother discussion, but
yeah.
I think that men can absolutely fight fights they need to fight and still have a heart, but
yes,
I haven't had to kill somebody, so I don't know what that's like. And I wouldn't begin to. I did want to know, what about USO shows? Robin Williams used to do those all the time. Is that still a
I want to
thing?
do those eventually. They
Right?
exist. I just haven't broke that wall yet. I'm working on some other things in the background to try to move forward. I'm working on veteran stuff. I know a lot of comedians that are veterans. James P. Conley has been a big kind of helper in my career, and he is a veteran as well. Tom Tran is also one who does veteran comedy. So I have like a lot of people that I know. So it's slowly navigating that. But I think part of the USO thing is you have to have like a name. So either if it was like James B. Conley was going and I was going with him, then it'd be different, right? But me going right now is a no go until
it's the not yet. I get it.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
And I'm okay with that. And like,
well, you're also filmmaking. I stalked you. So you're working on a like trophy hunt. That looked really cool. I was like, what's going on with that? And
that project is in production, pre-production hell. It just stuck.
Oh, everything is, but you're doing it. You're in the trenches. I mean, Stephen Pressfield talks about that. Would you rather be on the sideline watching the fight, or in the ring taking some knocks? And I
also do a lot of writing for like smaller indie projects, sometimes ghost writing and stuff. So a lot of what I do will never have my name on it. There are thousands of scripts out. Well, not thousands, but there are hundreds of scripts out there that I've written that do not have my name on them anywhere whatsoever, that no one will ever know that I touched.
That's still really cool, man.
But people gave me money and like, hey, I'll pay you to do it. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm down. Like the money is worth it. That's my day to day. So I'm lucky enough where I can podcast every day. I can write every day.
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, and do stand up. And I don't have to go to a 9 to 5. I don't have to show up at an office somewhere. I don't have to do any of those things. So for
Thank you,
me,
Jesus.
this is a win. This is a win
Yeah.
of going from, I literally had a corporate job where I made good money, but I had to go in every day and I had to like put on the game face. I had to do the stuff, and it was just not me. And I was just like, I don't want to do this. And so when the pandemic came, it was actually relief because in 1 week I lost 2 jobs. Like I
Ah!
literally like I had like 2 regular 9 to 5 jobs. I lost one job on a Monday. I got hired for the next one on a Wednesday, and then the pandemic hit and they fired me on Friday. So I literally in the same week I lost 2 jobs, and so I was like, okay. And then that was just my thing, was like, okay, now I'm going to go full time into what I want to do. So I spent the whole pandemic just working on whatever I wanted to work on, and it opened a lot of doors. So as a comedian, I always say to other comedians, always work on something. Dwayne Perkins was so good to me of meeting him the first time, and we sitting outside, we're waiting to go on stage, and we're talking. He's like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I do a podcast. I do stand up." He goes, "What else do you do?" And I go, I don't know. I don't do anything." He's like, "You got to do more. Write scripts, write funny stuff, do that." He's
Yep.
like, he started
Yep.
listing off stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I get it." Because we all think as a comedian, we go, if I'm just funny enough, I'll get a sitcom deal, I'll get a special,
No.
I'll be in movies, I'll do all these things. No, if you're not doing anything else besides doing stand up, you're not going to do it. If you don't take like an acting class or an improv class or learn to write sketches or learn to write a screenplay or any of those
Oh
things,
yeah. Oh yeah.
you're not going to move forward. And so having people, that's why I love doing this podcast, why I love doing the comedypreneur up, is because I want comedians to go more than just, oh, if I just am funny, things will happen. That's not true. You have to work on it. Now, you do voice acting. Is that your booth
Yeah.
that you're in
Yeah,
right
this
now?
is our
Okay.
booth. So we built this at home. We had this, I think this used to be a dark room. This is a
Okay.
great old house we're down, in Lomita. And
Okay.
my husband and I both, so, I got the Transformers gig, which was amazing. Again, my
Yeah.
killer manager. And then I got to do out of that, I got to also do a voice for a video game that's signed under an NDA. And I don't know,
Right.
don't know if it's going to ever see the light of day, but I got paid. You know how that goes.
Yeah,
But suddenly I'm like,
paid.
wait a minute, let's get this going. And what's been great is not only for my own work, but then my husband is developing a mashup cartoon. He's an animator, an artist, and we're doing all the voices on it. And
That's
so
awesome.
we're using it for there's so many possibilities in here. And now I've been using it for vocal work, for TikTok videos. I'll tell you, that's another thing I love. Not from the comedian perspective, but comedy, like you're saying, all the different things. I feel like I'm getting a crash course in sketch development. It's like, every day I'm going, okay, what am I going to create? I shoot it, I edit it, you cut it, then you cut it down more, then you cut it down more, because it's very much like stand up in that you got to go right in and you get immediate feedback. I mean, I've done things. What's great is Tony Baker, right? You know Tony Baker,
Yep,
the actor, he does all the animal voices, right? So he made that great point about, don't worry about how many likes you're getting right now. Make stuff that you believe in. I love almost every single TikTok video I've made. I watch them over. I laugh at them and I'm like, I love it. Some of them don't hit though. And I'm like, well, let me try and post it again another way and see if it repackage it up. Now it hit. And it's another great way to work on your humor and then just filmmaking. So I know we're not using Panavision and a, Ari, whatever. I get it, but
you don't need all that. You just a good camera and a good lens. We're gonna do I'm gonna work on a documentary pretty soon with a friend of mine. So that's the thing, is you just use what you have and do what you can. And I think too many of us think 10 years ahead, and we're trying to live at that 10 years ahead as opposed to living in the moment that we are now. Yeah, that's the thing. And
enjoying it.
Yeah.
So if we're not, go ahead. Yeah.
how is acting versus voice acting? I've always wanted to do voice acting. I do I can do different voices and do different things or whatever, accents and all that stuff. But how do you do that? I'm not an actor. I don't really ever want to be an actor unless it's something I'm doing for myself. Usually I don't really want to be an actor, but I would love to do voice acting.
Well, I hate to tell you, you already are an actor. It depends on what kind of actor you think you are. Maybe you don't want to be a Daniel Day-Lewis, right? Because to be a Daniel Day-Lewis, you got to put your family through 5 months of hell as you become the character, whatever. No. Okay, fine. But Bruce Willis is an actor and Sylvester Stallone's an actor, and they are being authentically them, for God's sake. So, what's great about voice acting, so a lot of the auditions, they'll say, yeah, you can send us some voice clips, but we want to see your acting real. So when you do get into voice acting, you should still put together, and it's just you being you, tweak it towards, whatever your buddies see you as. Your wife will tell you, like, yeah, definitely the lovable husband, the ex-Navy guy or the current Navy guy, the dad. Just do a couple of different ones and a couple different things around your house, so they can see you
Right.
doing your voices and with your different modulations. They like that because they want to see your animation. And when you're doing it, let me tell you, it is a workout.
Yeah.
Especially with cartoons, and I love cartoons. I am still trying to get my Donald Duck. I haven't found it yet, but I'm gonna. But you're also taking, especially with Transformers, you're taking punches and you're giving hits. And this was my first big gig, and on the first day, the director grilled me. He gave me hell. But I stood up to it, not in a rude way, but I just stayed calm. My manager said, whatever you do, you keep your mouth shut, you take direction, and you stay present. And it's true. It's true in anything in life, when they're on a time constraint. But I came back, and it's like this new sort of respect kind of came up, and they're like, okay, let's go. And I'm like, yes. So, in Hollywood, you can get fired after they've shot the whole movie and they just edit you out. Who knows with these things? So it wasn't until it came on Netflix, I was like, they're going to cut me out. Oh my God, I just know it. And I was still in. I was like, yes. But I would say there's a plethora of information on YouTube. It's wonderful, wonderful stuff. You just go on there. You can find all kinds of professional voice actors who will give you tips. It is a workout. Every day, work on your voice. The fact that you're doing a podcast, so you are talking every day, is helpful.
Right.
But then it's about, can you, Audible, you get into books. If you're not careful, your throat is ruined in half an hour, and you got to go for 4. So you need to start strengthening your vocal cords now. That's the whole fun catch-22 about being an actor or whatever, is you have to be getting ready now as if you already have the job. But that's really good. Definitely, I would recommend, write this, you'll listen to this later. DB Cooper. DB Cooper is a voice actor. She's killer. And she's a coach and director. She's fantastic. And I think she has some specific videos and workshops about taking punches and hits and things like that. That's just excellent. When you're watching cartoons, then you really, or any voiceover, you start to notice, what are they doing? The grunts, the all those things, the modulations. Frasier is a show I watch over and over again because it is so melodious.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that right there. But you'll start to notice it's an art form in and of itself, and it's so much fun and so rewarding. And if it's something you want to do, absolutely go for it. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for all your time.
Of
Where
course,
can people
thank
find
you.
you? Where can they find your comedy? Where can they, all that stuff? And I'll put it all in the show notes too. So
That's great. Thank you so much. So Georgia Reed Comedy is my handle on Instagram and TikTok. Absolutely go follow me there. I am having so much fun. Instagram, I put a lot more of my stand-up and acting. TikTok is more of my silly sketches and voiceover, but I mix them. And I am on the Twitter still. That's interesting. Wild, Wild West over there. My YouTube channel is Ballerina Badass for all things ballet, pre, post, and during. And and my link tree also. That's where you can find out about my upcoming show dates. I've already got 5 or 6 dates booked for this month. I'm really grateful. And I'm going in for 10-minute sets now and things like that. I feel super stoked. So Linktree / whatever, Georgia Reed Comedy.
I think if you go to the Instagram and you click on there, there's a link tree in her Instagram.
I did that right.
So you're good. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you everybody for listening. Please like and subscribe. Go to YouTube. If you're listening to this, go to YouTube and watch this, and then subscribe while you're there. I see you guys doing it. The numbers are ticking up every single day. I wake up every morning. I look at 3 things. I look at the Spreaker statistics, which is how many downloads of the podcast. I look at I go look at Ezoic and the numbers for comedypreneur.com. And then I go and I look at YouTube to see how many people are subscribed and how many people we added. And every day it goes up on all those things. And I go, thank you so much for letting me be blessed to do the thing that I love, which is talk about comedy, be a part of comedy, help people with comedy. Like that means a lot to me. And that's the whole goal. So thank you all so much. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon and have a great day. Bye.